The morning sun pierced through Portland's thick clouds, creating irregular shadows across the porch of the house in Maple Grove. Nathan settled into the wooden chair that had become his silent refuge in recent months, his eyes fixed on the baby stroller that remained there untouched, like a monument to lost hope. The pink fabric, which Emily had chosen with such care during their shopping afternoons at the mall, now showed stains faded by time. The metal was beginning to show signs of rust in the corners, but Nathan couldn't bring himself to move it. It was as if that object represented the only tangible connection to the dreams that had fallen apart on a night in March. "Good morning, Nathan," greeted Mrs. Baker, the retired neighbor who lived next door. She carried a watering can and was heading to her plants, but always found an excuse to start a conversation. "How are you feeling today?" Nathan raised his eyes, forcing a smile that never fully formed. "I'm managing, Mrs. Baker, thanks for asking." The grey-haired woman observed him with that maternal expression he had learned to recognize. It was the look of someone who had witnessed his transformation from a hopeful man to a melancholic shadow of himself. "You know, my boy, life sometimes plays tricks on us that are very difficult to understand," she said, adjusting the watering can in her hands. "But we can't let pain paralyze us forever." "I know that," Nathan murmured, turning his attention back to the stroller. It's hard to accept that everything changed in a single night." Mrs. Baker sighed deeply. She knew about the tragedy that had befallen that family. Emily, Nathan's sweet and radiant wife, had passed away during childbirth, and little Lily hadn't survived. A succession of devastating events that transformed the once lively house into a kind of museum of longing. "Emily always said she wanted to raise Lily on this porch," Nathan continued, his voice breaking. "She imagined Sunday mornings having coffee while the baby played in her stroller. She said it would be the perfect spot to tell stories." Silence settled between them, heavy as the clouds accumulating in the sky. Mrs. Baker finished watering her plants and approached the fence that divided the 2 yards. "Have you thought about talking to someone? A professional, perhaps?" she suggested delicately. "There's nothing wrong with seeking help to process all this." Nathan slowly shook his head. "Everyone wants to help me move on, Mrs. Baker. But how do I do that? How do I simply forget everything we planned, everything we dreamed of?" "Nobody's asking you to forget," she replied. "We're asking you to live. Emily wouldn't want to see you like this, consumed by sadness." He knew she was right, but rational knowledge couldn't reach the hole that had opened in his chest. The house remained exactly as Emily had left it. The baby's room remained prepared, with the crib assembled, the little clothes folded, and the toys still in their packaging. It was as if he were waiting for the return of someone who would never come back. "It's exactly 6 months today," Nathan said, more to himself than to his neighbor. "I know," Mrs. Baker responded softly. "And every day you sit here at this same time, it's the only thing that still makes sense." The routine had become his anchor in a reality that seemed to have lost all logic. Getting up, drinking bitter black coffee, sitting on the porch in front of the stroller and letting the hours pass. There were no more projects, no more plans, just the constant weight of absence. Mrs. Baker said goodbye with a gentle wave and went inside, leaving Nathan alone with his thoughts. The morning breeze gently rustled the leaves of the tree that Emily had planted in the garden 2 years earlier, as if to remind him that life continued around him, indifferent to his pain. He closed his eyes and allowed the memories to return. Emily laughing as they assembled the stroller for the first time, their hands intertwined over her round belly, the baby's kicks that made them smile in the early hours. Moments that now seemed to belong to another life, to another man he no longer recognized. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like. Tell us which city you're watching from. We continue. That morning, there was something different in the air. Nathan felt it before he even opened his eyes. A subtle change in the atmosphere, as if time itself had altered its rhythm. The sky had a paler shade than usual, and a shiver ran down his spine for no apparent reason. Following his usual routine, he prepared coffee and headed to the porch. As he sat in his usual chair, something at the front gate caught his attention. A small, motionless figure was watching the house with disconcerting intensity. It was a girl appearing no more than 10 years old, with worn clothes and disheveled dark hair. She remained perfectly still, as if she were part of the landscape, but her dark eyes were fixed directly on him. There was nothing childlike about her gaze. It was penetrating, almost disturbing. Nathan rose, slowly, intrigued. The child showed no intention of moving or speaking. She simply observed him with that expression, too serious for her apparent age. "Hello," he said, approaching the gate cautiously. "Are you lost? Do you need something?" The girl didn't respond immediately. She continued studying his face with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. When she finally opened her mouth, her words cut through the morning air like a sharp blade. "Your baby is still alive." The world seemed to spin around Nathan. He felt his legs go weak, as if the ground had become unstable. The phrase echoed in his mind, impossible and painful at the same time. "What? What did you say?" he managed to articulate, his voice coming out weaker than he intended. But when he raised his eyes again, the girl had disappeared. The street was empty, as if she had never been there. Nathan looked in all directions, searching for some sign of movement, but there was nothing except the wind rustling the leaves of the trees. "This can't be happening," he muttered to himself, running his hands through his hair. He returned to the porch with trembling legs, trying to process what he had just experienced. Was it possible that his mind, fragile from grief, was creating hallucinations? Could the pain have reached such a point that he now saw things that didn't exist? He sat heavily in the chair, his heart beating rapidly. The girl's phrase continued to reverberate in his thoughts. "Your baby is still alive." It was absurd, impossible. He had seen the documents, had been at the hospital, had lived through that terrible night. Mrs. Baker appeared in the window of her house, waving as she always did. "Everything okay over there, Nathan? I saw you talking to someone at the gate. Did you see a girl out front?" he asked, trying to keep his voice controlled. "A girl?" Mrs. Baker frowned. "I didn't see anyone, son. You were alone when I looked out the window." Nathan's stomach tightened. If Mrs. Baker hadn't seen the child, this could only mean two things. Either he was losing his sanity, or something very strange was happening. For the rest of the day, he couldn't focus on anything other than that disturbing encounter. He mentally reviewed every detail, the way the girl watched him, the maturity of her expression, the way she had pronounced those impossible words. At night, he decided to call Dr. Thompson, the doctor who had attended Emily during pregnancy, and who had been present on the fateful night. "Doctor, I know this may seem strange, but I need to confirm once more about Lily. There's no possibility that—" "Nathan," the doctor interrupted gently, "we've talked about this several times. I understand your pain, but you need to accept what happened. Lily didn't survive, and insisting on this denial will only prolong your suffering." "I know, doctor. It's just that today something happened. Someone said something that confused me." "Who said what?" Nathan hesitated. How could he explain the encounter with a girl that apparently only he had seen? "Never mind, thank you, doctor." After hanging up the phone, he remained seated in the dark room, watching the shadows dancing on the walls. The house was too silent, and every small noise made him startle. When he finally decided to retire, he stopped at the door of the baby's room. It was exactly as Emily had left it. The crib with pink sheets, the stuffed animals lined up on the shelf, the mobile with golden stars that she had chosen with such care. "If this were true, Emily," he whispered into the darkness, "you would give me a sign, wouldn't you?" Silence was his only response, but something inside him refused to accept that that morning had been merely a product of his disturbed imagination. There was something in that girl's expression, in the conviction of her words, that defied all logic. A week passed since the disturbing encounter with the mysterious girl. Nathan had tried to convince himself that it was all just an episode of his fragile mind, but the words continued to echo in his thoughts like a persistent echo. That Tuesday morning, as he stepped onto the porch with his coffee cup, something different caught his attention. Attached to the baby stroller, swaying gently with the morning breeze, was a small yellowed piece of paper. Nathan approached with his heart racing. The paper was folded and tied with a thin string. With trembling hands, he undid the knot and opened the note. The handwriting was precise, almost childlike, but the words were laden with meaning. She knew. Just 2 words, but they seemed to carry the weight of a revelation. Nathan read the note several times, trying to decipher its meaning. Who was she? And what exactly did she know? Instantly, his mind flew to Emily. In the last days before giving birth, she had shown increasing restlessness. Nathan had attributed this to the natural anxiety of a first pregnancy, but now, recalling more clearly, he realized there had been something more. Emily was always intuitive, he murmured to himself, tucking the note into his pocket. He closed his eyes and allowed himself to return to those final weeks. Emily had commented about strange things at the hospital during prenatal consultations. Nurses who avoided her gaze, doctors who seemed too rushed, conversations that stopped when she approached. "Nathan, do you think everything is normal?" she had asked one night, her hand resting on her round belly. "Normal how, honey?" "At the IT hospital. Sometimes I get the impression they're hiding something. Today I overheard a strange conversation between 2 nurses. They stopped talking when they saw me." At the time, he had been reassuring, rational. He had explained that hospitals always had their internal dynamics, that health professionals dealt with delicate situations that required discretion. But Emily hadn't been convinced. "Promise me something," she had insisted, holding his hand. "If something happens to me, you'll investigate. You won't accept ready-made explanations." "Nothing is going to happen to you, Emily. You're being paranoid." "Promise, Nathan." He had promised more to calm her than because he believed it would be necessary. Now, with the note in his hands, that promise resurfaced with full force. He decided to look through Emily's things, especially her belongings from the hospital. He went up to the bedroom and opened the closet, where he had stored the bag she had taken to the maternity ward. Inside, he found clothes, toiletries, and a small notebook he didn't remember seeing before. The pages contained notes made by Emily herself, observations about hospital staff, unusual hours, conversations she had overheard, a kind of informal diary of her growing suspicions. March 15th. I saw Dr. Wilson leaving a room that should have been empty. When I asked the nurse about that wing, she quickly changed the subject. March 18th. 2 women crying in the hallway. One of them was holding papers and repeating, "They said he didn't make it, but I know my son was fine." Why would a mother doubt what the doctors said? March 20th. I tried to talk to other pregnant women about their experiences, but they seemed reluctant to speak. One of them whispered to me, "It's better not to ask too many questions here." Nathan felt his stomach turn with each page. Emily had documented a series of strange situations that, in isolation, could be explained, but together formed a disturbing pattern. The last note was from the eve of the delivery. "Nathan doesn't believe me, but I know something's wrong. If something happens, I hope he finds this notebook. I promise I'll protect our Lily however I can." Tears blurred Nathan's vision. Emily had tried to warn him, and he hadn't listened. He had been so focused on being the reassuring husband that he had ignored his wife's instincts. At that moment, the phone rang, startling him. It was an unknown number. "Hello?" "You found the note." The voice was young, but had that same mature quality that he immediately recognized. "Who are you?" Nathan asked, trying to stay calm. "Someone who wants to help. Your wife was right about everything." "Where are you?" "I need to talk to you." "Tonight at the park near your house. Midnight. Come alone." The call ended before he could ask more questions. Nathan looked at Emily's notebook, and then at the note in his hand. For the first time in months, he felt he was about to discover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The afternoon passed slowly, each minute weighing like an hour. When night finally fell, Nathan prepared himself for the meeting that could change everything. The park was immersed in shadows when Nathan arrived a few minutes before midnight. The streetlights created yellowish circles of light that alternated with areas of complete darkness. The cold night air made his hands tremble, or perhaps it was just nervousness. He walked to the bench near the playground, where he used to come with Emily during her pregnancy to imagine what it would be like to bring Lily there to play. The memories of those happy moments cruelly contrasted with the current situation. "You came." The voice emerged from the shadows, making him start. The girl emerged slowly from the darkness, as if she were part of it. Her clothes were still worn, but there was something different about her posture, a confidence that defied her fragile appearance. "Who are you?" asked Nathan, trying to keep his voice steady. "How do you know about Emily, about Lily?" "My name is Sophie," she replied, sitting down on the bench next to him with disconcerting naturalness. "And I know because I've been through what you're going through." "I don't understand." Sophie looked at him, with those dark eyes that seemed to carry an ancient wisdom. "Your wife was right about everything. The hospital, the doctors, the strange things she observed. It wasn't paranoia, it was maternal intuition. But you're just a child. How can you know this?" A sad smile crossed Sophie's face. "Appearances can be deceiving. I know more about that place than I'd like to. I know about the silent corridors, about the rooms that should be empty, about the babies who disappear and the mothers who never receive true answers." Nathan felt his heart racing. Every word from Sophie confirmed the suspicions he had tried to suppress for months. "What happened to Lily?" "She didn't pass away, Nathan. She was taken." The words hit Nathan like a punch to the stomach. He stood up abruptly, walking in circles as he tried to process the information. "Taken? By whom? Why?" "There's a scheme," Sophie explained calmly. "Healthy babies from families without many connections are declared as not having survived. The documents are falsified, and the children are delivered to families who pay very well for a silent adoption. That's impossible, it's madness." "It's the truth." Emily discovered part of this, which is why she was anxious in the final weeks. She noticed patterns, overheard conversations, saw things she shouldn't have seen. Nathan sat back down, feeling his legs weaken. "But why are you telling me this? How can you be sure?" Sophie remained silent for a long moment, looking at the stars that could barely be seen through the clouds. "Because the same thing happened to me, many years ago." "To you? But you're here." "I am and I'm not," she answered mysteriously. "Some stories are more complicated than they seem." Before Nathan could question what she meant, Sophie continued. "Tomorrow look for Nurse Rebecca Johnson. She worked at the maternity ward for years but retired recently. She lives on Oakwood Street, number 237. She has information that can help you." "How do you know all this?" "I observe, I listen, I remember." Sophie rose slowly. "But be careful, Nathan. Powerful people are involved in this. Don't trust anyone from the hospital until you are absolutely certain." "Wait." Nathan tried to hold her, but she was already moving away. "How can I find you again?" "You don't need to find me," she answered, her voice becoming more distant. "I appear when necessary." And once again Sophie disappeared into the darkness, as if she had never been there. Nathan remained on the bench for a few more minutes, trying to organize his thoughts. The night's revelations had transformed his pain into something more complex, a mixture of desperate hope and growing anger. He returned home with his mind racing. If Sophie was right, if Lily was really alive somewhere, he needed to find her. But first, he needed concrete evidence. He spent the rest of the night awake, planning how to approach Nurse Rebecca Johnson. For the first time in months, he had a purpose that went beyond mere survival. When the sun rose, Nathan was already dressed and prepared to begin a journey that could change everything. Hope, which had been buried along with his dreams on that terrible night, began to resurface like a small but persistent flame. He looked one last time at the stroller on the porch before leaving. Soon, perhaps, it would no longer be empty. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like. Tell us which city you're watching from. We continue. Oakwood Street was a quiet road in the Pine Hills neighborhood, lined with simple houses with well-maintained gardens. Nathan found number 237 without difficulty, a brick residence with a small porch where colorful flowers competed for space in improvised pots. He hesitated for a moment before ringing the doorbell. How would he explain his presence there? How would a woman he didn't know react to his questions about a possible scheme at the hospital where she had worked? A woman of approximately 60 answered the door. She had grey hair tied in a simple bun and gentle eyes that observed him with curiosity. "Good afternoon. Are you Rebecca Johnson?" "I am. How can I help you?" "My name is Nathan Mitchell. I'd like to talk to you about St. Luke's Hospital, where you worked." Rebecca's countenance changed instantly. The gentleness gave way to a cautious, almost fearful expression. "About the hospital? Why? Who sent you here?" "Nobody sent me officially," replied Nathan, realizing he needed to be careful. "My wife had our daughter there a few months ago. I'm trying to understand some things that happened." Rebecca studied him for a long moment, as if trying to decide if she could trust him. "How did you get my address?" Nathan hesitated. He couldn't say that a mysterious girl had given him the information. "I searched for information about former hospital employees. Some colleagues mentioned that you had worked there for many years." "Come in," she said finally, opening the door reluctantly, "but I can't guarantee I'll be able to help you." Rebecca's living room was cozy, with antique furniture and family photographs scattered across the shelves. She invited him to sit in a floral armchair while she prepared coffee. "Did you work many years at St. Luke's?" Nathan asked, trying to start the conversation casually. 32 years, she answered from the kitchen. "I started as an assistant and finished as head nurse of the maternity ward." "You must have seen many happy stories." Rebecca returned, with a tray, but her expression had become somber. "Many happy stories, yes, but also some complicated ones." "Complicated how?" She served the coffee with slightly trembling hands. "Mr. Mitchell, before we continue, I need to know exactly what happened to your wife and your daughter." Nathan took a deep breath and told his story. He spoke about the smooth pregnancy, about Emily's suspicions in the final weeks, about the fateful night and the information that Lily hadn't survived. As he spoke, he saw Rebecca's face growing increasingly pale. "What was your wife's name?" "Emily." "Emily Mitchell." Rebecca covered her face with her hands. "Oh my God, I remember her. Her beautiful young woman who always asked intelligent questions. She was right to be suspicious." "Right about what?" "There were things happening at the hospital that weren't normal. I tried to turn a blind eye for years, but there came a point when I couldn't anymore." Rebecca stood up and went to an old cabinet. From inside a drawer she retrieved a yellowed folder. "When I retired, I took some things with me, things that I thought might one day be important." She opened the folder on the coffee table. Nathan saw documents, photographs, and handwritten notes. "During my last years at the hospital, I began to notice strange patterns. Babies who were born healthy but were declared as having complications. Families who asked too many questions and then disappeared. Doctors who worked outside their hours in supposedly empty wings. Do you have proof of this?" "I have copies of some medical records that didn't match what I had witnessed. I have photographs of babies who were declared as not having survived, but who I knew were fine." Rebecca removed a photograph from the folder. It was an image of a newborn, clearly healthy, with an angelic face. "This is a photo I took secretly," she said, handing the image to Nathan. "This baby was declared as not having survived, but I saw him breathing normally. 2 hours later, he had disappeared from the hospital." Nathan examined the photograph, and his heart almost stopped. The child's features were incredibly familiar, a mixture of his own traits with Emily's. "When was this photo taken?" "On the night of March 23rd, Rebecca answered softly. "The same night Lily had been born." Nathan felt the world spinning around him. This could be my daughter. I can't be absolutely certain, but the physical characteristics and the date coincide. And there's one more thing." Rebecca showed him a sheet of paper with notes. "That night, I recorded information about 3 births. 3 babies who officially didn't survive but who I knew were healthy. All were transferred to a special wing under the supervision of Dr. Alexander Williams. Dr. Williams? That name isn't in the documents I received. Because he wasn't on the official schedule. He only appeared in specific situations involving these mysterious transfers. Nathan held the photograph with trembling hands. For the first time in months, he was seeing concrete evidence that his suspicions might be correct. Do you know where I can find this Dr. Williams? Rebecca hesitated before answering. He lives in one of the most affluent areas of the city. But you need to be careful, Mr. Mitchell. These people have a lot of power and many connections. If you're going to investigate this, you need irrefutable proof before making any accusation. Rebecca had given him the address reluctantly. 1847. Westchester Avenue, in the most affluent neighborhood of Portland. Nathan spent 3 days observing the property from a distance, trying to understand the routine of the house and find an opportunity to approach without raising suspicions. The mansion was imposing, surrounded by high walls and meticulously maintained gardens. Electronic gates, security cameras, and a sophisticated intercom system made it clear that someone who greatly valued privacy lived there. During his observations, Nathan noticed that every morning a housekeeper left to shop at the nearby market. She was a middle-aged woman, appearing to be Filipino, who always walked the same route. On the icy fourth morning, he decided to approach her. "Excuse me," he said, approaching her as she left the market. "Do you work at Dr. Williams' house?" The woman looked at him suspiciously, clutching the bags to her chest. "Why do you want to know?" "I'm a doctor too," Nathan lied. "I'm trying to contact Dr. Williams for a professional consultation. He doesn't see patients anymore. He's retired." "I understand, but he might make an exception. It's about a very specific case." The housekeeper continued walking, but Nathan could tell she was listening. "Is there a child living in the house?" he risked asking. The woman stopped abruptly and looked at him with an alarmed expression. "How do you know that?" Nathan's heart raced. There was a child in the house. His suspicions were being confirmed. "I heard comments. A little girl?" "Listen carefully," said the housekeeper, looking nervously around. "I don't know who you are, but if you're interested in the girl, forget it. That house is not a place for asking questions. Please, I need to know, is the girl about 6 months old, dark hair?" The woman hesitated, clearly in internal conflict. "Are you her father?" The question hit Nathan like lightning. His voice came out choked. "I think I am." The housekeeper studied him for a long moment, then sighed deeply. "My name is Maria. I've worked in that house for 2 years. The girl, she arrived when she was a baby. They told me she was adopted, but what? But she has a birthmark on the back of her neck, a small star-shaped mark. And sometimes she asks for a Mommy Emily in her dreams." Nathan's legs almost gave way. Emily had commented about the birthmark during the last ultrasound, and the name the child mentioned. "Maria, please, I need to see her. I need to be sure." "It's impossible. The house has 24-hour security, and Dr. Williams, he's not a good person. If he finds out I talked to you, I could lose much more than my job." "Then help me find another way. You must understand what it means for a father to find his daughter." Maria looked around again, then signaled for him to follow her to a nearby bench. "Every afternoon around 4 o'clock, I take the girl to play in the back garden. It's the only time when Dr. Williams isn't around. There's a part of the wall, at the back of the property, where the trees have grown very tall. You can see through the hedge." "What do they call her?" "They call her Sophia, but she always says her real name is different. Sometimes she whispers Lily when she thinks one is listening." Nathan felt his eyes fill with tears. Lily. His daughter was alive, had a different name, but deep in her infant mind still held her true identity. "Maria, I need more information about Dr. Williams, about how Sophia came to be there. He receives wealthy couples who can't have children through conventional means. He offers orphaned babies for very high values. He always said it was all legal, but you suspect otherwise." I've cared for other children before Sophia. There was always something strange. Very young babies arriving at the house, without adequate medical history, and the children always showed signs that they had had other families before. Other families? Some cried for different parents, reacted to names that weren't the ones they received at the house. Sophia is the youngest, but even she... Maria stopped talking when she saw a black car approaching. I need to go. It's dangerous to be talking here. Maria, please, this afternoon, at 4. Can I see Sophia? Come through the back street, but be discreet. If Dr. Williams knows someone is watching, he might move Sophia elsewhere, and then you'll never find her again. Maria quickly moved away, leaving Nathan alone with his devastating discoveries. His daughter was alive just a few yards away, but trapped in a situation he still didn't fully understand. He spent the rest of the morning planning how to approach the house without being detected. At 3:30 in the afternoon, he was already positioned in the street behind the property, hidden among the trees Maria had mentioned. At 4 o'clock sharp, he heard voices in the garden, a childlike voice, sweet and musical, that made his heart race. Through an opening in the hedge, he finally saw her. A small girl with dark, curly hair, playing with dolls in the garden. She had Emily's eyes and Nathan's face shape. There was, no doubt it was Lily, his daughter, alive and growing far from him all these months. Nathan returned home with his heart divided between the overwhelming joy of having found Lily and the despair of seeing her so close yet still unreachable. He spent the night awake, developing plans for how he could gather enough evidence to recover his daughter without putting her in danger. The following morning, he was on the porch when Sophie appeared again. This time she didn't stay at the gate. She crossed the garden and sat on the porch steps as if she were a familiar visitor. "You found her," she said, with no question in her voice. "How do you know?" "I know many things, Nathan. I know you. Saw Lily playing in the garden yesterday afternoon. I know she has a star-shaped birthmark on the back of her neck. I know that even with a different name, she still whispers her true name." Nathan approached and sat beside Sophie. "I need help to get her out of there, but I need to do it the right way without putting her at risk." "There's something you need to know first," said Sophie, her voice carrying a different weight. "About me, about why I can help you. What do you mean?" Sophie stood up and walked to the baby stroller. She gently ran her fingers over the faded pink fabric. A long time ago, a woman named Hannah was pregnant. She suspected the same things that Emily suspected. She asked the same questions, had the same fears. Nathan felt a shiver run down his spine. When the time came for delivery, Hannah gave birth to a healthy baby girl. But just as happened with Emily, they said the baby hadn't survived. Hannah passed during childbirth and the girl disappeared. Sophie. My real name is Sophie Hannah Reynolds. I was born on April 15, 1982 at St. Luke's Hospital. My mother passed during childbirth and I was declared as not having survived. Nathan felt the world spinning around him. "But you're here, you're talking to me." "I am and I'm not," Sophie repeated the mysterious phrase she had said before. "Dr. Williams took me the same way he took Lily. I grew up in the same house where your daughter is now. What happened to you?" Sophie turned to face him, and for the first time Nathan saw tears in her eyes. "When I was 8 years old, I discovered the truth about my origin. I found documents in the house, photographs, medical records. I confronted Dr. Williams about it. And he panicked. He knew that if I grew up and discovered everything, I could destroy his scheme. So he decided I was too great a risk." Nathan swallowed hard, fearing to hear the rest of the story. "He took me back to the hospital one night, said I needed some tests. I never left there again." "Sophie, you mean that?" "I passed away in that hospital, Nathan, at 8 years old. But my story didn't end there." Tears streamed down Nathan's face. The girl who had guided him to the truth was the spirit of a child who had been a victim of the same scheme that victimized Lily. "Why can you help me? Why are you here?" "Because some injustices are so great that they transcend life. Because my mother and I never had the chance that you and Lily can still have. Because Dr. Williams cannot continue destroying families. Sophie approached Nathan and held his hands. They were surprisingly warm for someone who shouldn't be there. But there's something else you need to know. Lily is not the only child in the house now. Dr. Williams is about to make a new transaction. There's a pregnant woman at the hospital, in the same circumstances Emily was in. What do you mean? He's going to repeat the process, tomorrow. Night, if we don't stop it now, another family will go through what you went through. Nathan stood up abruptly. I need to call the police. Report everything. Do you have enough evidence? Asked Sophie. Official documents, witnesses who are willing to speak against a respected doctor? Nathan hesitated. Rebecca had given him some documents, but would they be enough to convince? The authorities? Maria can testify. She works in the house. Maria has family in her home country. If she testifies against Dr. Williams, she could be deported. Do you think she'll risk that? The reality of the situation hit Nathan with full force. Even having found Lily, even knowing the truth, he was still at a disadvantage against someone. With the power and connections of Dr. Williams, then what can I do? There's a way, said Sophie, but it will require courage and complete trust in me. Tell me. Tomorrow night, during the operation at the hospital, the house will be less guarded. Dr. Williams will be busy with the new victim. It will be the only opportunity to take Lily out of there. And afterward, how will I prove she's my daughter? Leave that to me. When Lily is safe, I'll ensure the truth comes to light in a way that neither Dr. Williams nor his lawyers can contest. Nathan looked at Sophie, at that girl who had lost her own life because of a man's greed, but who now was willing to help him save his daughter. How can I trust someone who is no longer alive? Sophie completed with a sad smile. Maybe that's precisely why you can trust me. I have nothing to gain from this except the peace of knowing I did justice. Night was falling, and with it the most important decision of Nathan's life. In less than 24 hours, he would have the chance to recover Lily or lose her forever. The night was cold and moonless when Nathan approached the mansion for the second time. This time, he wasn't just a desperate observer. He was a father determined to recover his daughter. Sophie walked beside him, silent as a shadow. The entrance will be through the back, she whispered. Maria left the garden door unlocked as we arranged. How did you manage to speak with her? Some conversations happen in ways you wouldn't understand, Sophie answered mysteriously. The important thing is that she agreed to help. They crossed the garden carefully, avoiding the illuminated areas. The house was quieter than normal, confirming that Dr. Williams wasn't present. Maria was waiting for them at the back door, visibly nervous. She's sleeping in the second-floor bedroom, she whispered, but you need to be quick. Dr. Williams said he'd be back before midnight. Where are the security guards? Asked Nathan. He dismissed most of the team today, said he had confidential matters to resolve. Sophie held Nathan's arm. Now's the time, go to Lily, I'll take care of the rest. What are you going to do? I'll ensure the truth comes to light. Nathan climbed the stairs with his heart racing. The second-floor corridor was dimly lit by small nightlights. He followed Maria's directions until he found a partially open door. In the room, decorated with soft colors and scattered toys, Lily was sleeping peacefully in a small bed. Nathan approached slowly, trying to control the overwhelming emotion of finally being close to his daughter after all these months. She was even more beautiful than he had imagined. She had grown, of course, but preserved the delicate features that he and Emily had imagined during the pregnancy. Seeing her sleeping peacefully, Nathan felt a mixture of unconditional love and anger at the injustice that had been committed. Lily, he whispered softly, touching her face. The girl opened her eyes slowly. For a moment she seemed confused, but then something changed in her expression, as if a deep, dormant memory had awakened. "Daddy," she murmured with a sleepy voice. Tears ran down Nathan's face. She had recognized him. After more than 6 months apart, his daughter still had some memory of him. "Yes, my love." "Gert's Daddy, I've come to take you home." Lily sat up in bed and extended her little arms to him. Nathan hugged her with all his strength, feeling as if a part of his soul had returned to its place. "Where's Mommy Emily?" asked Lily, using the name she had whispered in dreams. "Mommy is in heaven, my love, but she loves us very much and wants us to be together." At that moment, they heard noises downstairs. Loud voices, hurried footsteps. "We need to leave," said Nathan, picking Lily. But as they reached the corridor, they found Dr. Williams blocking the exit. He was a tall man, with graying hair and an authoritative expression. His eyes showed the coldness of someone accustomed to controlling situations. "Put the child down," he ordered, holding a cell phone, "and leave my house before I call the police for breaking and entering and kidnapping." "Kidnapping?" Nathan held Lily more firmly. "She's my daughter. You're the one who kidnapped her." "Prove it," challenged Dr. Williams. "Do you have any document that proves this? Any respectable witness? Sophia was legally adopted by a family that can give her everything she needs." "Her name is Lily, and you know it. What I know is that you're a disturbed man who broke into my house and is terrorizing a child." Nathan realized he was cornered. Dr. Williams was right about the documents. Officially, Lily no longer existed. And there, in that situation, he really did look like an intruder trying to take a child. That's when Sophie appeared in the corridor. Dr. Williams instantly paled at the sight of her. "Impossible," he murmured. "It can't be." "Hello, Dr. Williams," said Sophie calmly. "I've missed you." You can't be here. You're not—" "Not supposed to be here?" Sophie completed. "Just like Lily isn't supposed to be here. Just like I wasn't supposed to be brought to this house when I was a baby." The doctor began to tremble. "You're not real. It's impossible." "What's impossible is what you've done to so many families, but it ends today." Sophie approached Dr. Williams, who retreated until he was backed against the wall. "In the drawer of your office, there's a red folder with all the real documents. The children's real names, the addresses of the biological families, the values of the transactions. You're going to hand all of this over to the authorities." "Never," he replied, trying to regain his composure. "Then I'll do it for you." Sophie vanished into thin air as if she had never been there. Seconds later, they heard a noise coming from the office downstairs. Dr. Williams ran down the stairs, followed by Nathan, with Lily in his arms. When they reached the office, all the drawers were open and documents scattered across the floor. In the center of the desk, a red folder was open, revealing photographs, falsified certificates, and a detailed list of all the children who had passed through the scheme. "Sophie!" shouted Dr. Williams. "Stop this!" But Sophie was no longer visible. Her voice, however, echoed through the room. "The police are already on their way. Maria called them and delivered the evidence that Rebecca Johnson kept for years. There's no way to hide the truth anymore." As if confirming her words, sirens began to sound in the distance, rapidly approaching. Dr. Williams looked at Nathan with an expression of defeat. "You don't know who you're messing with. I have connections, lawyers." "You had," corrected Sophie's voice. "But when the truth about all these children comes to light, not even your lawyers will be able to save you." The police arrived a few minutes later, finding a scene that wouldn't need much clarification. A desperate man trying to justify a room full of incriminating evidence, and a father finally reunited with his daughter. 3 months later, Nathan was on the porch, but this time he wasn't alone. Lily played in the garden with new dolls, laughing as she invented fantastic stories. The baby stroller had been stored in the attic. It was no longer needed. The legal process had been complex, but with all the evidence found in Dr. Williams's house, the truth became indisputable. Lily was officially back with her real father, and other families were being reunited with their missing children. "Daddy, who are you talking to?" asked Lily, noticing that he was looking at a specific spot on the porch. Nathan smiled. Sophie was there, sitting on the steps, watching Lily play with an expression of profound peace. "A very special friend," he answered. "A friend who helped us stay together." Lily waved to the air as if she could also see Sophie. "Thank you for bringing my daddy back," she said cheerfully. Sophie smiled and waved back. Then, slowly, her image began to fade, as if she were finally finding the peace she had sought for so many years. "Take good care of each other," whispered her voice, becoming increasingly distant. "You have a second chance. Make it count." And, for the first time since everything had begun, Nathan felt that the story had reached its true ending. Not an ending of farewell and mourning, but of reunion and hope. Lily ran to him and settled in his lap. "Daddy, will you tell me the story of Mommy Emily today?" "Of course, my love. I'll tell you about how she loved you very much and how she protected us, even when she was no longer here with us." As he began the narrative, Nathan looked once more at the spot where Sophie had been. She was no longer there, but he knew she had found peace. And finally, he had found his